we're going to jump into the first panel. First, I wanted to thank everyone for putting on this amazing conference, and of course our wonderful first speaker, and Andrea and Suen, and Jan Vasbender. So this is a very inspired and inspiring event, and I'm sure that I'm going to learn a lot from all of you in the next 2 days. I just wanted to mention that as chair of the School of Art, Design, Media, this is something that we've been encouraging and working on and embracing for a long time. I would say most of our professors, in fact, are involved one way or another with heritage. So in some ways, this is naming and extending what's already, happening, and deepening it and accelerating it. So this is something that's, as Andrea pointed out, is in a way close to my heart, but I think it's close to our collective hearts. And when he talked about empathy and ethics, I was so happy because this is really the, those are such fundamental values that inform almost everything we do. And I just wanted to emphasize that and thank him for bringing that up. So intangible, from our perspective, obviously, is everything from language, stories, poetry, music, dance, all the time-based arts, literature. I don't have to list them all. I think you understand. And I think certainly in the arts, it's fundamentally interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary. And so when we talk about what's trends today, especially with digital technology and wireless and the cloud and so on, it really brings into a kind of urgency the need to study and facilitate, if you will, understand and catalyze with that empathy and ethics. We went from what I called the international style, which was kind of the modernist style, to remove cultural specificity with the idea that such cultural specificities might be decoration, to something that's totally changed today. We know that it's symbolic meaning, and it's to understand connections between the people and their expressions and different cultures and so on, that we're now questioning and also encouraging. And I have to say, through all my teachings over many, many years, I've had many international students, and I've always encouraged them to bring their own memories, their own oral histories, their own heritage into their creative artwork. And I actually worked in the Hollywood environment for some years. And I just want to tell you that when they were able to express something so true, if you will, the details are often what people recognize as, it touches people in a way that's very complex and also resonates with many people's experience. Anyway, those students always got the jobs. So Hollywood appropriates world cultures, but doesn't always articulate that in its recognition. And I would say the real thing is almost always better than what Hollywood can create or can replicate. And now that's blurring a lot. And I think the people in heritage really need to be pioneers in really standing up for the principles and respect, and making sure that it's integrated properly into the mass media. Anyway, I'm talking too much. So I want to just mention that now, yes, we're very well aware here in Southeast Asia of the importance of the oral traditions. And speaking about oral, yesterday I went to an oral surgeon, and I was very surprised that my endodontist had read all my father's papers. And so I speak from every day in the cross-cultural, that environment, that even I, on my little tiny daily level, am constantly aware of the importance of our personal heritage and how it connects with people all over the world. So that was supposed to be funny. Okay, all right. So let me introduce the first panel, From Heritage to Creative Industry. Our first speaker is Nanci Takeyama, and she's assistant professor here in visual communication and product design at the School of Art Design Media here at NTU. She has a Master of Design from Kyushu University and PhD in Design Research from Kobe Design University. She's worked commercially and, of course, in research, which she'll be telling us more about. And she has done some amazing projects with people in the region, and she'll be telling us more about. She's the founding director of Design 4, which is a group engaged in utilizing research to advocate cultural understanding and preservation by using design as a dialogue. Her paper is titled Intersections Between Heritage and Design. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Nanci.
Morning, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for coming, and thanks for inviting me. And this is a hard follow-up. So without further ado, I'm just going to start the presentation. I want to start the presentation with some statements and definitions. And as stated by participatory design pioneer Pelle Elm from Malmö University in Sweden, as design thinking has become a central issue in contemporary design discourse and rhetoric, and it's for a good reason. A fundamental change for design and the design community is to move from design things with a lowercase, which are objects and artifacts, to design things with uppercase, which is the social material assemblies. So in my presentation, I'll be using the words design things for objects and artifacts with a lowercase, and design things with uppercase, again, for social material assemblies, for systems. According to UNESCO, intangible cultural heritage is considered as the practice, representations, expressions, as well as the knowledge and skills, including instruments, objects, artifacts, cultural spaces that communities, groups, and in some cases individuals recognize as part of their cultural heritage. So practices, representations, expressions, as well as knowledge and skills are things with uppercase. Objects and artifacts, things with small case. And the question is, what are the intersections between design and heritage? And can design help to preserve heritage? These are the questions I've been asking myself in the last 4 years since I started this project. So initially, my project is inspired by the sense of cultural identity in Japan, where the links between craft and design are still strong. And craft itself is not considered a lower form of art. The difference starts from this mentality which allows artisans to be proud of what they do. This is actually a flower basket made in 1969 by Shono Shonsai, a worldly renowned craftsman. He was the first bamboo craftsman in Japan to be named Living National Treasure in 1967. This is a popular term for those individuals in Japan certified as preservers of important intangible cultural properties. So the mentality. My own area of expertise is on Asian iconography, on the forms and symbols in Asia and their meaning. In the past, mental models or narratives were translated into visual language, and parts of these narratives were repeated in the material culture. But in the last century, as the world became more and more focused in technological advancement, there has been an increase in ability in understanding these visual models, and even visual language pertinent to it, only understood as meaningless superficial ornaments. It is only in the last couple decades, with the exchange of information between different fields of expertise, that scholars started to relook at ornaments in Asia and agree that they actually have meanings and they are part of a visual narrative. So the main purpose of my research is to look for methods to reconnect the understanding between the mental models, the visual language, and the material culture, where research feeds into design inspirations and the knowledge is shared by all. For this, a group of alumni and myself, the alumni from ADM, from our school, created Design4, which is a research group, an open platform for collaborations on social design projects. In creating a network of partners, we aspired to create design solutions for the good of the individual, a better society, and ultimately a sustainable world with a holistic view. The name Design4 is a catalyst for the possibilities of design with a humanistic view. We advocate for cultural understanding and preservation by using design as a dialogue. So we propose a model that is a dialogue between research, design, and the community. Research, we do ethnographic research to see in the material culture the worldview of a particular group of people. From ethnographic research, we learn and understand the meaning of visual forms and symbols relevant to this worldview. The research feeds into inspirations to create meaningful and culturally respectful designs that will remain relevant in the world today. Design. We learn by making to understand methods and materials in the process of traditional craft making. Incorporation of innovative ideas into the process to suit efficacy, sustainability, and creative needs of the product. Designers recognize the respect and the importance of the cultural and material context. This model is inspired in Asian models of apprenticeship of artisans and the adoptions of a hands-on process-driven method. Community. We provide our collaborators with designs that can support the economy of local communities, aligning with the values of ethical consumerism, and we work with NGOs from the region to ensure fair trade for the artisans. This translates into a model of research into meaning, design by making, and embracing human relationships through sharing. This investigation was part of the project From Anthropology to Design, a heritage management project in the New Silk Road, funded by Nanyang Technological University. Laos was chosen as the pilot project site because it's one of the few countries that still preserves such relationship with the material culture and its invaluable hand-woven textiles. Most of the countries still live in rural communal settings, and although the country is considered one of the poorest countries in Southeast Asia, it holds one of the most intricate silk and cotton hand-weaving techniques in the region. We made several field trips to understand the meaning behind the material cultures. The research in Laos began with ethnographic documentation in order to understand and reinterpret the living culture in present-day Lao community through its most important symbol, the cosmic serpent. Depending on the context, is called Nak or Nuak in Laotian language or Naga in Pali. Believed to be an animistic figure that predates Buddhism, the cosmic serpent was a symbol used in many shamanistic ritual textiles. Today, it continues to be significant to the cultural identity of the Laotians. But what really caught our hearts were the textiles, where women still weave in their looms, and they also dye threads with natural dyes that do not harm the environment. In this particular picture, she's using indigo. On our first trip in 2012, we lived with craft villages to learn their craft techniques by making. In the photos, we can see our ADM students. A weaving village where people still dye their silk with mud, and the result is a beautiful charcoal color. Living with the artisans gave us an insight to their way of life based on handmade objects that are harmless to the environment, homegrown and home-cooked foods. We learn a lot by being reminded about community living values in supporting one another and a more harmonious relationship with nature. And we started to see similarities between the tangible and intangible, which made us excited to go further on the research. Meanwhile, we interviewed artisans about the meaning of the symbol of the cosmic serpent, and for our surprise, their understanding was quite limited. We also interviewed textile weavers who actually weave these patterns in the cloths, but we were told they don't know much about the meaning, they only copy the existing motifs. It was only the master weaver in the village, in the bottom, at the age of 75, who understands that these textiles are supposed to tell a story, but she only knew parts of them. Back in Vientiane, we interviewed scholars and researchers who only understood meanings of isolated symbols, unable to connect them to a bigger narrative, giving us the confirmation this was an important topic to continue research. We partnered with Laotian researchers to further investigate on the symbol. We decided to collaborate with partners such as Saoban, a social enterprise working with craft communities for the last several years on a fair trade basis. This is their store in Vientiane. And Huehon Vocational Training Center, founded in 1998 as a center to provide training and employment to women from disadvantaged backgrounds. Meanwhile, we looked for references on the intersection between craft and design, but there is not a lot. One of the very few resources we found as books was this book called Design and Craft, The Brazilian Path by Adélia Borges, published in 2012. Adélia Borges is one of Brazil's most important design critic and curator. To be unbiased, I'm actually citing observations by John Takara on an article for Design Observer. So John Takara says, Borges' commentary breathes new life into discussion about the relationship between designers and artisans in the South. In particular, she's worried about how many persons want to help us in the Southern Hemisphere with a lack of respect for local knowledge. Exchanges between designers from the North and craft communities in Brazil have been intensifying since 1990. But there are far too many occasions where designers or design students arrive with or maintain a superior attitude towards the artisans. Borges further counsels that the potential dangers of a badly carried out intervention are many, and their effects can be damaging. The older a tradition is, the more away from civilization the community it belongs to, the greater the dangers and the greater the necessary care. The basis for these North-South interactions for Borges must be respected. Respect for the work rhythm of the artisans, respect for the signs that have been registered over the years, respect for the whole system of symbols that culminated as an object. One way to enrich the connection is to focus on ways designers and makers in the North can learn from sustainable techniques that Brazilian artisans have used even before the word ecology was coined out. We must urgently reflect upon the ethical parameters to be observed in this encounter, as well as shared methodologies which will allow a true dialogue to take place. Having this in mind, before we went further on the project, we start to look for more examples as references. And we found this local exhibition, the IEX Asian Heritage, launched in August 2012 at the Asian Civilization Museum. The statement in their website is as follows: to create original Singapore-designed contemporary retail products inspired by Asian artifacts from Singapore National Collection, each product has an interesting story to tell, giving new meaning to the artifacts and shaping fresh perspectives to our heritage. So I actually blocked the name of the designer, And the statement by the designer is, inspired by unique Chinese porcelain. So the artifact in the top is what they inspire their work from, and then that's the collection that the designer designed. The collection feature reconstructed prints and surprising elements. The other designer is the design is based on this lacquerware from Palembang. Inspired by this lacquerware to turn wood into wearable pieces. The result is an exclusive limited edition body harness that is to be worn over other clothes. Another design, inspired by the Hmong soul locks and Malay dokot, the soul locks feature a secret drawer which can be used to hold a special message for a loved one. The inspired ring is a fun wearing collection of modern acrylic rings in juicy colors inspired by Hill tribes jewelry from northern Thailand. And this is another example from an exhibition of Miao culture and sustainability design in Hong Kong. Their statement from their website. With the aim to sustain in the culture and craftsmanship of the Laos, the Department of Fashion and Image Design of Hong Kong Design Institute is proud to present the Miao Culture and Sustainable Design exhibition to showcase a series of original costumes and artifacts from minority Miao in China. It also demonstrates a range of contemporary accessories collection inspired by the Miao culture. This is the real Miao traditional costume and the design works. Designer statement. Mixing the traditional dye craftsmanship of the Miao and modern denim and modifying the uniqueness of Miao with contemporary laser cut techniques all leads to a fusion of fruitful celebration. Let's have fun with this innovative fusion. Another design. The Miao have long used textiles and the statement, making as their method of language to record their history and beliefs. Their techniques are instruments of vocabulary. The designer was found speechless as she played with the designs joyfully. She felt 1,000 words could not express the Miao culture correctly. These are really real statements that I just plugged from the internet. And then another one from the same exhibition, designer statement. The designer has always been loyal to French romance and Gothic rock. This crossover, the traditional Miao costumes, has pushed his designs into new heights. The ornaments of the Miao tribe have been reworked and reassembled to present a luxurious yet handcrafted mood. And as an insider's look, this is Bong Kong Signavong, a Lao fashion designer based in the US. And designer statement, I'm very confident and proud of the Lao people. I want to bring my country's tradition to America and inform American people about Laos. And I also want to bring back to Laos the American taste. So these are some of his works. And then the Hmong goes global. So this is the Hmong costume and their needlework. And in the last years, the aesthetics of Hill tribes have become a trend in contemporary fashion. This is a cover of Vogue in Italy. And fashion blogs talking about models spotted carrying Hmong bags on the streets of Paris. This is an image from a fashion blog featuring the real Hmong bag using vintage Hmong needlework. And fashion with design websites showing mood boards and applications of fashion in contemporary living. And this are some of the Hmong traditional necklaces. And to the right actually, the Hmong inspired necklace sold by fashion brand Forever in 2011. And the other two are the necklaces featured at IEX exhibition in Singapore 2012. These are some of examples of vintage Hmong needlework. And these are Hill Tribe inspired bags currently sold by Accessorize. And finally, a mass-produced machine-embroidered Hmong-inspired bag made in Thailand that is sold by the hundreds by Alibaba. And they make their way back into the market in Vientiane, in Laos now. So basically, yes, they are selling their own culture, made in Thailand, machine-made, you know. So my question is, except for business, are there any winners in this process? Is there any gain for heritage? And just on techniques and colors, again, we go back to the Hmong traditional costume, and these are vintage Hmong appliques. This is their appliques in their costumes. And then we find this applique translated into cushion covers by a store in Vientiane called Kama Crafts. The store statement. Kama Craft is a non-profit self-help project which markets handicrafts from Laos. Kama Crafts strives to provide a sustainable method of income for village women that would otherwise be unavailable. Kama Crafts' income-producing work allow women to use their traditional cultural skills to continue their livelihood, while at the same time allowing them to care for their families. Kama Craft handicrafts are sold in local and foreign markets. And then Kama Craft goes Christmas style. Kama stands actually for Compassion and Mercy Associates. This is from their website. We serve in a variety of relief and development ministries that flesh out the good news of God's love for people, body, and soul. Kama Craft actually is a Christian group bringing the crafts to their churches to sell in the US. And these are some of their Christmas products and some more. So since Kama Craft is one of the major stores in Vientiane, ironically, their color palettes can also be seen beyond their stores. Other Hmongs adapted their aesthetics, believing that this is what the West market is looking for. So these are products sold outside of the Kama Craft in the market in Vientiane. So all these examples that we saw, they are not too far from what Borges have described in her book. So with this in mind, we continue our own project. So we went to understand the meanings. And one of the main difficulties encountered during our investigation was the lack of reference materials. This is because the ancient Thai communities in Laos had passed down their traditions orally, which meant that written documents did not exist until written times. Today, the political entity of Lao People Democratic Republic has a population of 5.5 million with 49 ethnic groups. Most of today's population have lost their stories and traditions as a result of the many wars, social upheavals, and eventual political isolation that took place between 1950 and 80 and modernization. To better understand the meaning of the cosmic serpent, we underwent to a series of exercises. Mind maps were good exercises. It took the principle of symbols as network of meanings that worked both horizontally and vertically. We also created visual mind maps to further explore the meanings. And we established a link between academic research and our concepts. Design decisions that were guided emphasized the meaning of these patterns. We also named our collection so to link the name of each pattern to its meaning in order to convey this information which has been lost even among weavers in Laos. We wanted to convey this information for both artisans and the general public. This research became the source of inspiration to develop these meanings visually and further emphasize them through the use of shapes, material, colors, and textures, the elements that were the building blocks of visual communication. The design process included iterative rounds of sketching, mock-ups, and critiques carried out over a period of several months. Connecting meaning to form. So we designed collections based on 3 patterns of the cosmic serpent. So these are some of the variations of the same pattern that we've been collecting over the last 3 years. So it's quite incredible how they know that this is the same pattern, and they are able to weave in different sizes and have different variations. And then we were informed by this paper by Dr. Anfei Doré, a Laotian anthropologist. We get the meaning that the pattern of 2 serpents lying horizontally, heads apart, but bodies intermingled, means nuk, or serpent intercourse. We went through several rounds of sketches, and then the next collection, Nak Pang Duality Collection. These are some of the patterns we collected in our field trips. So we photoshopped and isolated just for you to be able to see better. And from the same article by Dr. Anfei Doré, a pattern of 2-headed serpents standing vertical in a V shape. In fact, it's 2 serpents with tails enlaced. This figure would be the illustration of the Fuxi and Niwa myth from China. And Konnak Transcendence Collection. The sketches, the compilation of some of the patterns. And succession of serpents mean traveling of nuk, or cosmic serpents, mainly between heaven and earth. So after we got our designs, we actually commissioned the textiles to be woven for the collections. We made sure to use existing patterns or revive some from books. We also made sure to consult with weavers if applications of patterns into the product were culturally appropriate as well. It took several months for them to dye the threads with natural dyes and manually weave the textiles for the products. After the textiles were ready, we commissioned a sewing group in Singapore to sew these prototypes. And then final colors and prototypes. So Naktantao Fertility Collection. We actually used the colors of the collections inspired by existing color combinations, because we saw some of the craziness that happens if you introduce different aesthetics. So we didn't want to introduce a new color combination to them. So these are the final products. So the role of the designer was to connect the name of the pattern itself, the meaning, and apply to the products. However, these things with the lowercase are just the embodiment of the whole process, which are the things with uppercase, which is the process. Nakpanghang Duality Collection. This is the existing color combination with the indigo. And this is the whole collection. Kongnak Transcendence Collection. The existing inspiring colors, and the whole collection. So note that all these collections will be actually, the designs are going to be donated to the artisans. We are concerned to design the products within the boundaries of their craftsmanship and skills. And sharing with the community. In November 2012, we returned to Vientiane in Laos to conduct a workshop to weavers at the Hoi Hon Vocational Center for Women. The workshop was given in conjunction to a Laotian anthropologist, textile expert. The workshop participants were very interested to learn the stories or meanings behind the motifs of the textiles they weave every day. A workbook was created with plenty of visual references so the participants could cut and paste images, recall, and recount their own stories. In November 2013, we received the UNESCO Honorable Commendation for this project. In February 2014, we had an exhibition at the Asian Civilizations Museum. So these are some of the images. We brought a loom from Laos. And the exhibition was actually opened by the Lao Prime Minister and his Singaporean host in his visit for the 40th anniversary of establishment of diplomatic ties between the two countries. We were able to bring some of the weavers from the Hoi Hong Vocational Weaving Center to Singapore. And for us, actually, that was the highlight of this exhibition, as they were able to proudly represent their country through their skills. During the same period, we organized a symposium on the meaning of cosmic serpent in Asia, with presentations featuring the symbol of the cosmic serpent in Southeast Asia, China, and cross-culture. We invited Dr. Sumet Junsai, which is an international renowned Thai architect and painter, author of the book Naga on the cosmic serpent, an origin of civilization in Asia Pacific, and other presenters of the symposium. In December 2014, we opened another exhibition at the National Design Center in Singapore, focusing on the design aspect of this project. So these are some of the images. We, again, set up the loom. And this exhibition was followed by a roundtable with Lao textile experts to discuss the names and meanings of patterns we actually investigated. So we basically called the experts to confirm if our findings were actually correct or not. So this is the roundtable. Some of them agree, sometimes some of them don't agree, because they have a much more literal understanding of the motifs, and we wanted to have a larger interpretation of the motifs. So our project was a dialogue between the design of things with uppercase, lowercase, and things with uppercase. Design of things with lowercase are the designs of objects. Design of things with uppercase is the system. We worked as designers, as facilitators, connector of name, image, meaning, application, processes, and techniques. The role of the designer is of a storyteller of culture. What is ahead for us? So still on the design of things with uppercase, we want to create a quality control label to help the artisans to understand the international market needs. We want to compile the research we've done so far and print as a book and an e-book in Laotian language. Conclusion. So designers or design needs to start by understanding the meaning and importance of culture. And design of things with uppercase can contribute to heritage. Thank you.